Okay guys, today's topic is going to be the interview Ace did on Speedy whatever's channel, and also the hatred of Nic and Olandria, the pattern of the people who dislike her, and what I think is actually happening. So hi, hello, how are you? My name is Jasmine. I yap about random topics, and Love Island has been a topic of discussion that is very popular at the moment. Now, I've made a couple other videos, but I'm going to post this one first because I feel like it's so important that people recognize how what is happening is crazy. So basically, there's a couple on Love Island. Nic and Olandria, or Nic Olandria, is their ship name, couple name, whatever. And basically, they came in runner-up on the show, and ever since they got together, there has been a certain demographic of people trying to discredit their relationship, claiming that they're fake, claiming that they're PR. And I've addressed this in another video, how the underlying issue is actually just racism and people's inability to believe a conventionally attractive white man is going to choose a conventionally attractive black woman over what they believe is supposed to be the preference. And this is what I've noticed. The people who are questioning Nic and Olandria's relationship the most is white women. It's white women. Not all white women, but of the people that I've seen question their relationship, it's mostly been white women. And here's why. I feel like it's almost like there's this notion that some white women have, that they're always supposed to be the number one choice when it comes to men, and specifically white men, because I don't think people necessarily have a problem with them being an interracial couple. They have a problem with the fact that Nic is a very attractive white man who chose a dark-skinned black woman and openly chooses her every day, praises her, has said she's one of the most beautiful women he's ever seen in his life. And they're not used to seeing a black woman being labeled as very attractive on that grand of a playing field. Because let's be honest, most people are used to seeing white women be placed on that pedestal. Like, think about like most of the top models in the world: Gigi Hadid, Kendall Jenner, like a lot of the biggest supermodels are white women, right? So there's this idea, this notion that white women are the beauty standard and are supposed to be the most attractive woman. And I feel like for some white women, Nic choosing Olandria shatters the notion of them being the top of the beauty food chain, in my opinion. I feel like that's why some, not all, some white women are mad about Nic and Olandria's relationship, because Nic is a model, right? So it's not like he's an ugly. I shouldn't say an ugly, but he's an attractive person. He's attractive. He's attractive enough to be a model. And I feel like for those types of white women who see themselves as being on a higher standard or level because that is what they've been told, taught from, I don't know, all of the media we see that uplifts and highlights the beauty of specifically white or more, I don't know how to say it, like the educational way, but pretty much prioritizes Eurocentric features over any other ones as being the most attractive or sought after. It's kind of ruining how their perception of, white women always being seen as the most attractive. And I feel like it's bruising their ego in a sense that they have to watch someone they also. And I'm like, y'all wouldn't be this mad if Nic was ugly. Like, y'all are mad he chose Olandria because he's an attractive white man and he chose a black woman over all of the other people and treats her well at that. It's jealousy. It's jealousy with an undertone of racism and an undertone of, I don't think Olandria, like, you think you're better than Olandria, basically. You don't think Olandria is deserving of Nic because in your head, Olandria is not what you consider to be the most attractive or someone who's worthy of that. And that's why I said there's an underlying racism in a lot of the hate that Nic and Olandria get as a couple. And like I said, it's not even necessarily the fact that they're an interracial couple. It's that some of the people watching them, it's challenging their notion of being the most attractive people at all times to, I guess, conventionally attractive white men. Anyways, that's what I've been clocking from a lot of the hate that Nic and Olandria have gotten on the internet. People claiming their relationship is fake, it's PR, it's not real. Like, y'all believe that because you're used to, like I said, people aren't used to black women being portrayed as attractive and desirable. And that's the unfortunate sad part, is that we finally got that being portrayed on a national television show, and that relationship was faced with the most scrutiny out of any other couple on that show. I truly believe Nic and Olandria have been facing the most scrutiny on their relationship. Their relationship is the one that is the most challenging for people to believe. And like I said, the reason is because of the underlying tones of jealousy, racism, and having people's notion of how beauty standards should work being challenged by Nic choosing Olandria over every other person he had the opportunity to couple up with in the end, and continuing to choose her out loud. Like, y'all are jealous and haters at this point. So there's that aspect that I just wanted to say, because I mean, I've seen a few people say it, but not enough people are calling that out. In my opinion, there's also people, I feel like not only that, like, there's that side of it. I also see a lot of other, like, I'm not saying only white women are questioning the relationship. I've seen it from black men, I've seen it from black women, and some other, like, people. It's just like, again, I said, you can have an inherent bias and not realize it. Like, people who are claiming Olandria is not pretty when she's literally one of the most beautiful people on the show. It's just like, yes, beauty is subjective and in the eye of the beholder, but to have so many people like coming and attacking her looks as a woman specifically, it's giving you're jealous still, because again, it all ties down to Nic is a conventionally attractive man, and I believe Olandria is gorgeous. She literally gives Barbie. She has very striking, stunning facial features, right? Like, she has the perfect body. Her face is super symmetrical. She has high cheekbones, great posture. Like, she looks unreal in the photos. And every time I see like couple photos, and this is how I know, like, you can't convince me that you truly think Olandria is unattractive. I think people who are trying to force that narrative of her is they're jealous and they're haters, because Nic is very attractive, obviously, right? But Nic next to Olandria, they look so good together. It's like their features, they make each other look good. But Elandria specifically, it's like she can stand next to Nic, and Nic is not looking more attractive than her. Like, she is literally equally, if not more attractive when in their pictures. Like, you are drawn to her in the pictures. Personally, when I see pictures of Nic and Elandria, I am more drawn to Elandria in the pictures. Like, I know Nic is attractive, whatever, and he's a model, but Elandria is just like, she is so appealing to look at, and I feel like anyone with eyes can see that. I don't understand, like, and I feel like there's been pictures that Nic takes with fans, and it's just like, you can, like, it's just like he makes people who aren't attractive as him, you can be like, oh yeah, this is why he's a model. Next to Elandria, it's like she levels him up in a sense, not because she's not attractive, but because it's like they match. They just look good together. So, anyways, that's just something I also wanted to mention, because there's also, I feel like too many people are trying to downplay her beauty or go out of their way to bully her looks and put her down on her appearance, which I think is disgusting. I think it's disgusting for any person to ever tear down another person's looks, but when you're doing it specifically towards a darker skin black woman, I also believe there's an undertone of racism to that, because why is it so important for you for people to see her as unattractive or ugly? Why do you have to go out of your way to prove a darker skinned black woman is not attractive? That says more about you. And Elandria is beautiful. She's gorgeous. The way that y'all are lying to yourselves. I feel like some of y'all are truly trying to convince yourself she's not attractive so that you can feel better about yourself, because you can't feel good about yourself without tearing someone else down. And that is, like I said, that's a character flaw for you, not Elandria, not Nic. Thirdly, the recent interview Nic or Ace did with Speedy was very telling, and I also feel like it opens up a much larger conversation, because I feel like Nic has been nothing but genuine and loyal to everyone in that villa. Nic has not said anything bad about anyone since coming out the villa. There is not one thing that you can convince me that Nic said something negatively about someone. Now, has he explained why, in his opinion, he does not plan to reach out to Sierra? After seeing her video, he said, got out the villa, I was processing things, getting used to it. It's a big culture shock, him coming out of the villa after being gone, not having access to his phone, the internet for 2 months, and y'all were expecting him to just reach out immediately to Sierra, who he hasn't seen in over a week. He's found a new connection with someone else, and people were dogging him for not contacting Sierra, I guess, immediately after she was removed, and he'd continued his experience, found another connection with Elandria, was growing in that, happy with his connection, ready to, take on and continue that. And y'all are expecting him to immediately contact Sierra because, they were connected at one point in the villa. And so people were questioning him because of that, and saying he's not a good person because he hasn't reached out to her. He owes her closure. He owes her a conversation. But then Sierra blocks his sister. And then before it's even been a week or something out the villa, she's making a video talking about, oh, this guy never liked me and wanted my friend the whole time, which is simply not true. Was Nic always attracted to Olandria? Yes. And he was honest about that. I don't know. Again, this is why I'm saying, like, I understand both perspectives. I understand that Sierra feels wronged in some sense and feels like hurt by everything that happened, but at the end of the day, she was removed because of her own actions and choices. Nic had nothing to do with her getting removed, right? I also feel like in Love Island, the show in general, someone gets removed from the villa and someone stays and continues exploring and finds another connection, that's just the name of the game. That's how the show works. Like, Nic didn't do something wrong because he found another connection with Olandria and wants to continue exploring that outside. Like, some people think, like, I don't know. Again, I made a video talking about that already, but Nic was getting hated on for that, which I didn't agree with. I also understood why after he saw that video, he would second guess approaching her, because in like, she's already made up her mind about him, basically, like, oh, he never liked me, he was just using me. Like, why do I need to go back and prove to you that I wasn't using you? You've already are making this claim. You're also making this post villainizing me as a person, and I'm not going to reach out to someone who's basically actively getting me hated on because they're pushing out a narrative that I never liked them and just wanted your friend the whole time. Like, that would make me question having a conversation with someone too, because in my head, like, this person has already written me off. They've already made up their mind and they're publicly dissing me and putting me pushing me as this negative person. So in my opinion, that's understandable. I don't think a conversation really needed to be had between them, and I do feel like it might have been had Sierra not made that post. I truly think Nic would have said something like, hey, like, we had a great time, like, obviously you've seen I am moving forward with Olandria, but I wish you well, wish you the best, like, we had a great time together. But after she posted that, plus blocked his sister, plus liking all these shady comments and tweets, yeah, no, like, what more conversation do you want from me? Like, you've made up your mind. We both moved on. Keep it a buck and keep it pushing. So yeah, understandable that situation. And then Ace basically gets on a podcast. He's asked this question by Speedy about whether or not he thinks Nic and Olandria is real, and he relationship is real, and he gives one of the shadiest responses you could, while claiming Olandria is his friend. Now, he's not claiming Nic is his friend, and this is where I feel like Nic was done so dirty by Ace, because Nic has never said anything negatively about Ace. Not once, not a single time. He actually has been showing more support of Ace publicly than most of the other people stepping outside the villa. And then Ace is going to turn around and shade him and his relationship, claim Nic has no romantic interest in Olandria, even though I don't think Nic ever said that to Ace. Nic said, like, oh, Wick, I don't know, like, the romantic feelings are still growing, like, I thought we were just going to be friends. Mind you, he said that in the villa before they were ever coupled, shortly after they were coupled up, because, you know, it was a new couple for them, and, you know, they had just had this conversation about how there was no spark, they were just going to be friends, and now they're like, okay, actually, maybe this could be something more, we're going to try again. And I feel like for Ace to kind of weaponize that conversation in order to try to challenge Nic and Olandria's entire relationship as not being real is very telling of his character, and also how manipulative he is. Because you're pulling from a conversation that was had a month and a half ago, And their relationship has progressed so much since then. They've been on trips together, they've met each other's families, they've had more like deeper conversations since then, and you're still going back to a conversation you had with Nic a month and a half while y'all were still in the villa. I don't trust anything that he said. And like I said, I really do think it came from a place of jealousy. He was being a hater and he was being petty. He felt wronged by Nic because he didn't like Nic's comment about how everyone who was in the final four deserved to be in the final four. He felt like, oh, actually, all Nic said was everyone in the final four deserved to be there because they were voted to be there. Basically, America voted for them to be there, so who am I to say they didn't deserve to be in the final four? But for some reason, Ace's narcissistic personality took it as though Nic said Shelly and Ace were undeserving of being in the final four because he's a narcissist and he can't fathom not being put on the pedestal he thinks he deserves to be in. So anyways, like you felt hurt by him saying everyone in the final four deserved to be there just because he felt like Ace didn't feel like people in the final four deserved to be there, right? So he took it upon himself to think Nic was coming for him for not saying what he felt. But at the end of the day, all Nic said was, they were voted there, so I guess they deserve to be there. Like, who am I to say they don't? And anyways, Ace is upset over that comment. Now he's quote unquote claiming Nic doesn't defend him. Nic literally got a. It's like he's done nothing but be supportive of Ace. And I feel like Nic genuinely thought Ace was his friend, and Ace just proved he was never Nic's friend. He never cared about Nic as a person, and he definitely does not care about Nic and Olandria, nor Olandria, as people based off of him being willing to diss their entire relationship and make it seem like they're inauthentic, they're not genuine, they're not real, by using a conversation that he recalls from while they were in the villa before he left. And now he's claiming, oh, well, I don't know if they're real. But he asserts very clearly that he believes Taylor and Clark are real and only them, not other couples. So it's like it was very shady. I also feel like he just proved himself to be a horrible friend. He's not a true friend to Nic or Olandria, and not trustworthy. And all he did was paint himself. He thought he was throwing Nic and Olandria under the bus with that comment, but he really threw himself under the bus because all he did was prove he is not a genuine friend to anyone. He's shady, he's sneaky, and he's jealous. That's what he proved with his comments in that interview. And I feel bad because I can, like, Nic is genuine. I feel like he genuinely believed Nic, or Nic genuinely believed Ace and Taylor were like his friends in that villa, just for. But I also feel like I remember Nic saying, initially it was like Taylor, Ace, and Jeremiah, and then Nic felt left out, and then it turned into, Ace, Taylor, and Nic once Jeremiah was left, and then Ace and Taylor had this weird anti-Jeremiah. I think they were jealous of Jeremiah, just gonna be honest, because, I think Jeremiah and Nic are their friendship, I feel like, is genuine because Jeremiah also gives he's a genuine person. Taylor and Ace are both haters, and I feel like Nic was associating with them, was being loyal to them, and Ace and Taylor have not really been loyal to Nic in the same sense that he's been loyal to them. I feel like Ace and Taylor will choose each other over and their friendship over their friendship with Nick. And Nick is kind of getting the short end of the stick now and realizing, like, okay, maybe these people I thought were my friends in the villa actually aren't. And I feel like it's better he learns it now than down the road, because any information he might have trusted with them, he now knows like these people are not going to have my back in a situation where I really need them to, because neither Taylor nor Ace has ever actually defended the validity of Nic and Olandria's relationship. They honestly both sowed more seeds of doubt that aided in Nic and Olandria getting hated on, people calling them fake and saying they're just together for views and PR, because every time they got out the villa, and were asked about them, they were never like, oh yeah, like we believe them. They was always like, oh well, I don't really know. Like they've done nothing but sow doubt. And it's just like, if y'all truly, that was truly your friend, why wouldn't you be supporting them? I feel like that was very telling too. Like both Taylor and Ace, when they got kicked off the show, they weren't rooting for their boy Nic to win with Olandria. They were actually rooting for Brian and Amaya, which we all know they've already broken up at this point. So the winners, the people who won, are already broken up. Nic and Olandria are still dating. They're still seeing each other, and they're the only couple out of the final four couples to still be dating. So I don't know. Sounds like that one was real to me. Um, People are putting a lot of pressure on them to define the relationship, and I'm so glad they're taking things at their own pace, not letting the pressure other people try to put on them get to them. And I really just hope and pray for them to keep flourishing. I honestly think, like I said, this happening is a blessing in disguise for them, because their true friends and their true people are being exposed. They're learning now like who they can really trust and who they can't. And it does suck that Nic basically got thrown under the bus, and then Alandria in association got thrown under the bus by Ace because of this interview. But I also feel like it's going to allow them to actually develop a stronger bond, and the fact that they know, like, okay, these people are coming out of the villa and none of them are really having our backs. Like they have been, I mean, Jeremiah, Pepe, Brian, but I just like, Brian gives me a weird feeling. Like I don't really trust Brian either, but that's another story. Really, I feel like the only genuine friendships that and support Nic and Olandria had from inside the villa was Jeremiah at this point. Um, the rest of them I feel like are kind of low-key jealous of the attention and publicity that they've been getting, and they become kind of haters, and that's not a genuine friend or support system. So that's my thoughts at this point. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I am very tired. I'm about to go to bed, but I wanted to share that before I go to bed. Bye guys.